Welcome everyone to Canadian Yorker, and we are live for another YouTube live stream. I've decided to name that Town Talk Videos Combat Sports because we do talk a lot about combat sports on YouTube on this channel. So yeah, this is just another combat sports video here where we are talking about boxing and wrestling. And unfortunately, there's been some sad news that's been blowing up online. Obviously, unfortunate news that has happened. And so I'm going to be bringing this video to you guys to share this with you, so you know about what's happening. So there's a lot that's been going on. There's a lot of feedback, a lot of let's say feedback from people that have reacted to this incident, and people are upset with what's going on. So according to the New York Post here, there was an incident that happened with Raha Jackson. I can't exactly say his name correctly. Raha Jackson, he's the son of the UFC champion, former UFC champion, Rampage, Quincy Rampage Jackson. That's the name correctly. So in this video, I'm doing this to be fair to both sides, because there is a justice system. We do have a rule of law, and people do deserve to have their day in court. So I'm not making this video to pick a side, even though the actions of what occurred definitely deem the consequence, but at the same time, there's a lot that has to be investigated into this situation. So, and then the proper authorities are taking steps towards that. The other thing that I'm also bringing up, and we'll also be going over the David Benavidez fight that's going to be happening pretty soon. I know it's been a while since I've covered it, and I haven't been on top of it, but I'm bringing you the information about what's going down with that. On top of that, there is another update with Roach and Tank Davis. That's going to be happening. Apparently, there's some things that have happened. So some things have changed since we last covered it. And last but not least, Tank Davis is going to be fighting a different opponent other than Lamont Roach. This is Jake Paul, which, in all honesty, that just pisses me off too. So, but we'll be covering that at the very end. That's the best for last. That's the best for last. I'm saving, so you guys will hear me rant a little bit about what's going down with that situation with Jake Paul and Tank Davis. You'll hear me rant on about that. That's the best for last. But here we going into this crazy situation with Raha Jackson, and he attacked somebody. So basically, it says here from the New York Post, and as I always do in each of my live streams, guys, I am definitely going to be covering. I always put the links to each of these articles in the description box. So don't be afraid to, don't be afraid to read the articles, because there's different types of articles over what has happened over the past few days. So don't be afraid to check out these articles, and these are, you can read up on them. So it says, frightening Raha Jackson video emerges after vicious attack on wrestler. Raha Jackson's justification for rendering wrestler Stuart Scott unconscious has surfaced on social media. A still infuriated Jackson was seen walking out of a California arena with his blood-stained white shirt, ranting about why he decided to attack Scott. Jackson says, as he walked outside, quote, "I'm tired of these guys playing me." That's what he said. I think I'm always playing. They think he always playing. They're calling him names and stuff. And said, no way. At the end of the day, he's gonna stand up for himself. That's what he said as his justification for attacking Stuart Scott. So it kind of said here, Jackson had been brought into an independent wrestling show to work with Scott, who goes by Psycho Stu. When things took a horrific turn as Jackson picked him up and threw him to the ground, where the back of his head slammed against the canvas, rendering him instantly unconscious. The son of UFC legend Quinton Rampage Jackson then followed up with a brutal assault where he landed at least 15 unanswered blows to the face before somebody finally intervened. The post-assault video of Jackson gets more frightening as he begins screaming at himself, saying everyone's been playing with him. Jackson said screaming because he's tired of people playing with him. Real stuff. Jackson had hopes of following his father's footsteps, but just a 1-0-1 professional MMA record. Jackson is now reportedly under investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department and could face charges stemming from the ruthless attack. So Jackson said that another person, calling Jackson after the assault, explained to him that Scott hadn't woken up, at which Jackson ended the phone call, and Jackson said that he had pissed Jackson off. That's a wrestler had pissed Jackson off. Quinton Jackson, his father, defended his son by saying he should have never been there, adding he was recently concussed. So, look, you have hearing from Quinton's side. Raha Jackson, his son was concussed in the head. And obviously we know how dangerous concussions are. They can be dangerous, especially for fighters. Not a very good place to be. On top of that, he should have not been there in the first place. Unless he actually likes wrestling, he shouldn't have actually been in the wrestling place there, trying to, doing what he did. So that's unfortunate that the situation has happened. It could have been avoided. But continuing, because of what happened at the wrestling event, again from the New York Post, UFC legend Rampage Jackson getting death threats after his son's shocking wrestler beatdown. So it says Quinton Rampage Jackson has been on the receiving end of the hate stemming from his son's actions. Jackson's son Raha brutally battered professional wrestler Stuart Smith, leaving him hospitalized and in serious condition. But the former UFC star told TMZ Sports that he is being targeted with racist messages on social media. Quinton Rampage Jackson said, quote unquote, "All I can say is a lot of racist people giving me death threats and stuff like that, like I'm a puppet master, calling me a bad father. It's uncalled for." Jackson added that anything he says gets twisted. He previously released a statement on his son's actions, claiming he had recently suffered a concussion and shouldn't have been anywhere near that event. Quinton said, quote unquote, "I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raha. It's been confirmed that the wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Sid, is awake and stable." Jackson wrote in a post on X after the incident went viral. Raha was unexpectedly hit in the side of the head by him moments before Smith's match. Raha was told that he could get his payback in the ring. I thought it was part of the show. It was a bad judgment and a work that went wrong. Raha is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. He suffered a concussion from sparring only days ago and had no business doing anything remotely close to physical contact. As a father, I'm deeply concerned with his health and the well-being of Mr. Smith. That being said, I'm very upset that any of this happened, but my main concern is now that Mr. Smith will make a speedy recovery. I apologize on his behalf and to kick for the situation. Things appear to have taken a turn for the worse for Stuart's health, as a concerning update is revealed. Again, the situation that the Los Angeles Police Department is definitely investigating this matter. So, man, this is just bad look for both sides. Raha suffered a concussion, and Mr. Stuart Smith is in the hospital. But as you see in the next article that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, He is in the hospital, and he is stable, so he's doing better. But I just want to say this before I continue. The fact that this is just a pattern that I'm seeing, online, uh, people getting death threats um, from individuals who believe, that because they see something that happens, there are people out there in the world who think it's fine to use social media to send death threats to people, and that's wrong. I mean, I've covered it in my past video with um, the female referee who was also issued. I don't want to say it. I know it's on YouTube, but people shouldn't be getting online threats from other people because those things are taken seriously, and the FIFA has condoned it. Get people getting online threats. We have Rampage Jackson now getting online threats. This can happen to anyone. I mean, we live in a world where the internet is open and free, and anything can happen to anyone at any point in time. It's just not safe to be putting information out there online because people can and will use it against you. It's like the Wild West out here in this um, online world that we live in. The world is so much closer together as I know it than as I remember growing up, because I remember growing up in the 90s and 2000s. The internet was not as big as it was in my day as it is today, because you can go all over the world and people can connect with one another from any part of the world and also any part of the country. And it's just wild. That is completely insane to think about. But the thing is, people can also use it. But people can use for good. They can also use for bad. And of course, we have had this situation with online threats being issued. And if anyone does anything like that, of course, that should be investigated and taken seriously. That's not a that's not a joke. I know this because, having worked in the educational system before, it's always a point to be made that online threats is not a very good thing that people should do in any capacity, whether a person is a child or whether a person is an adult. That should never ever happen. Um, but everybody should have their day in court. I mean, these are both adults here, and both these individuals should have their day in court. And obviously, that's what should happen. So going into what's going on next with Mr. Psycho Stuart Scott, um, according to the article here. Where is that article? I'm trying to find it, but I'll find it eventually. But thankfully, Mr. Psycho Stewart, he could have had a worse injury happen to him if not for Douglas Marlowe, the wrestler who stopped Raha Jackson's attack from continuing on. Psycho Stu speaks out. So this article is from YahooSports.com. This is August 26, 2025. Stuart Scott, aka the California-based independent wrestler known as Psycho Stu, will have a difficult recovery ahead after sustaining severe injuries to his head, according to the latest update from his brother Andrew Smith, following a spot that took a turn for the worse at a Knox Pro Wrestling event Saturday night, when the longtime wrestler was allegedly beaten by mixed martial artist Raha Jackson. Video of the now viral incident was captured live on Stewart and Jackson's Kick stream this past weekend, showing Jackson picking up and slamming the wrestler. The impact of Smith's head colliding with the canvas appeared to knock Smith unconscious before Jackson punched him in the face, undefended 23 times. The alleged assault appeared to stem from an encounter between Smith and Jackson that was also caught on the live stream earlier in the day. Smith, working in character backstage, approached Jackson, whom he thought was also a wrestler, and they exchanged words before Smith smashed a beer can on Jackson's head. Later in the live stream, they apologized multiple times to each other for the misunderstanding. Jackson, the son of former UFC lightweight heavyweight champion Quinton Rampage Jackson, was restrained by a handful of wrestlers as the incident unfolded, many of whom was Douglas Marlowe, who has since spoken out to share more details on the Scaling Up podcast. Douglas Marlowe said, quote unquote, "I think he would have killed him," Marlowe added. "I promise you he would have killed him." Disturbing incident. Oh, let's read also what he said here. Douglas Marlowe said, quote, "I just got done with my match. I was blown up, took the heat, did stuff. Then he got a whisper by somebody, hey, something is not right. I might need you to go out and check out the scenario. This guy's going to do a spot. When does the spot happen? We'll let you know. You want to let me know, but you're not going to tell me when the cue is, when the spot's supposed to happen. You're just going to let me know just in case." So Douglas said, "I'm stuck waiting for this cue. I walk up to somebody with the radio. They talk to the back. When do you guys want me to go? What's happening?" I was informed about the beer can incident shortly before that. They told me they made up and shook hands, hugged it out, said multiple times, so it was going to be just fine. Just want to make sure. I see the slam, I see the first punch, second punch, and by then I've got people in front of me and I just start moving. I kind of wish I could have sprung on the slam. I just went in there to stop it at first because I was in shock. I saw Stu, I saw the punches, it felt like slow motion. So there's the full quote from Douglas Marlowe about what happened in the incident. That's what Douglas Marlowe experienced when he saw Rahat Jackson slam Stuart Scott to the mat and mount him and then throw punches at his face. So definitely was very dangerous situation. Could have ended worse. I initially thought that, I heard the story. I didn't really look into it, but now reading up on things, I realized that I made a mistake in thinking some things, and I realized, wrestling and MMA are two different things. Wrestling is wrestling. It's choreographed stuff. Me and myself and Blue and Steel, and of course I talked with some other people. But I talked with some other people about this. They mentioned, it could have gotten worse. This is a tough situation to be in. Thankfully, Mr. Psycho Stu is fine. He definitely has a long way to recovery, and I respect wrestlers, man. They put their bodies through a lot. Of course, MMA fighters do the same. But MMA is a real sport, and these guys fight for real, for money, and it's a legit sport. But continue with the article here. It says the disturbing incident is currently under investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department. Okay. So Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, a WWE ID affiliate school operated by WWE Hall of Fame Rikishi, called Jackson's action heinous and egregious as a statement released Sunday. Marlowe and Smith received immediate CPR after the alleged attack, resulting in him being stretched out off the venue by paramedics. Marlowe claims tried to go after Jackson afterward, but lost him in a whirlwind-like scene. Jackson could be heard throughout the Knox Pro Wrestling show on Saturday, making repeated comments to his kick stream, alluding to the violence he planned to inflict on Smith. Jackson said, quote, "They told me to hit him and just leave. Someone will put me off him and will leave," Jackson said on stream at one point. "I'm telling you, I'm going to hit him as many times as I can. Watch." That's crazy. Smith's brother, Andrew, has provided updates on social media since the incident. Late Monday night, Andrew revealed that his brother had regained consciousness but was far from out of the woods. A military veteran, Smith joined Knox Pro Wrestling in 2009 after he retired from service. Smith said in previous promotional material that he suffers from PTSD, which led him to wrestling as an outlet and a way to readjust to civilian life. So hats off to Mr. Smith. He's a military veteran. Um, best what I wish him the best of luck, in recovery in the services, and obviously the story continues because there has been some further reaction from other individuals who have said their piece about this. One of them being Mr. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man. No, I'm not gonna lie, Mr. Mark Henry is the world's most strongest man, but said he had some things that he said about the Raha Jackson incident. So it says here, WWE legend Mark Henry says Psycho Stu deserves some blame for Raha Jackson incident. Um, let's hear what he has to say. The story dominating the pro wrestling world the past few days continues to draw controversial perspectives from notable names. Former WWE World Heavyweight Champion Mark Henry is the latest to have a different opinion on the situation. Mark Henry spoke to TMZ Sports Monday night to discuss how the situation between Raha Jackson and Psycho Stu developed. Mark Henry is currently signed to WWE under a Legends contract. Mark Jackson is the son of a retired MMA fighter, Quinton Rampage Jackson. Psycho Stu, whose real name is Stuart Smith, struck Jackson on the head with a crushed beer can. The strike didn't faze Jackson and began to question why Smith struck him. A wrestler witnessing the act grabbed Stu's wrist and exclaimed to him, "He's not the worker, to calm down." The entire interaction between the two is streamed live on Jackson's account for the Kick streaming platform. The same wrestler seemed trying to console Jackson after the hit, explaining that Stu thought Jackson was working a spot before a match. Stu reaches out for a handshake, but Jackson denies it before Stu leaves out to his match. The wrestler, consoling and apologizing profusely to Jackson for the incident, then provides a possible silver lining. He proposes that he turns the beer can into something and that Jackson can interfere in Stu's match. Jackson excitedly responds and agrees to the proposition of interfering in the match. Jackson then approaches Stu and they have a shared handshake along with an apology from Stu. Hours later, when the match begins and the incident occurs, his father, Rampage Jackson, explained the side of the story, citing how his son shouldn't have been in the ring due to medical issues, and he also does not condone the actions of his son. Mark Henry took a strong stance on the situation and explained how he felt some of the blame needed to be distributed more appropriately. Mark Henry said, quote, "I don't know the full story, but I do know what I saw. It looked like Raha Jackson wasn't smart to what was going on, and the dude that was messing with him, Stuart Scott, bit off more than he could chew, and you got to be careful, one, with who you mess with, and two, who are you as a veteran for inciting a riot with a kid?" Mark, quote unquote. Mark Henry did explain that Jackson needed to show restraint and to have respect for the business and control his emotions. After Stuart Scott was knocked out by the body slam, Jackson unleashed dozens of strong punches to Stu's skull. The former World Heavyweight Champion Stu made it clear that the situation could have been avoided if Stu had approached Jackson better prior to the event. So Mark Jackson said, quote unquote, "If indeed I saw what I saw," which is people before the show during the daytime drinking an intoxicated or partially intoxicated. You bust a bottle over a guy's head and trash talk like that guy was not going to do nothing. Yeah, you're at fault, quote unquote. Jackson has also heavily emphasized the importance of top-tier training and how not being educated on what is supposed to happen at a pro wrestling event can lead to situations like this. The last update by Stu's brother Andrew on Facebook on Monday night stated he was resting from his injuries in the hospital and that a long road to recovery is up ahead for this pro wrestler. He also stated that a GoFundMe has been set up by the wife of Stu to help recovery costs. Of course, we have the continued information that the LA Police Department is looking into the situation. So, there we have it from Mark Henry. It appears that he has decided to take the side of Raha Jackson, because he's looking at it from two sides. He is a wrestler himself, but he does understand the complexities of both sides of the situation. obviously we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen going forward. We don't know where it's gonna go. Um, is he going to be charged? Is Raha Jackson going to be charged for the assault that he did on Stuart Scott? Obviously, if anyone else did it, if anyone is not the son of a famous person and a very profitable and rich person, that remains to be seen. Obviously, after let due process play out. There's more reactions that have occurred. Sean Strickland, I'm just gonna find it right here. Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has said that Raha Jackson shouldn't go to jail, leaving UFC fans shocked. So it says Raha Jackson is receiving some backing from UFC former champion Sean Strickland, in light of his assault against pro wrestler Stuart Scott, aka Psycho Stu, on Saturday. 25-year-old Jackson slammed Stu Smith on his head before hospitalizing him with a grotesque amount of punches. The assault was live streamed, and Jackson confirmed premeditation, marking, "I'm gonna hit him as many times as I can, just watch." Yeah, I mean, the hot-headed Sean Strickland is typically in the headlines for his own brashness and is currently suspended for storming the cage and punching a fighter in the regional promotion earlier this year. Sean Strickland has attended anger management courses, but he's the first to vouch that they really work. Somewhat controversial, Sean Strickland defended Sean Jackson in a tweet on August 25th, kicking off with "Jackson's kids shouldn't go to jail." Sean Strickland said, quote unquote, "I was arrested at 19 for 2 felony grievous bodily injuries. I would have spent 5 to 6 years in prison if the DA had its way. After 6 years in a cell, coming out with nothing, being indoctrinated with gangs and violence, I guarantee I would have killed someone. Instead, I pleaded and took 100 days jail or work release, a ton of anger management, and a decent amount of victim restitution, after a miserable 2 years in court." Sean Strickland continues, "Bottom line, it's not about the person in prison, it's about who they become when they're out of prison. And I believe if I weren't offered that deal, I would be dead today, and more likely would have resulted in someone else's death as well. My 2 cents, rehabilitation over prison always." This is still a developing story. So, yeah, here's the thing. Sean Strickland, having gone through the ringer, knows what it's like on that end. He obviously, like as he said, he spent some time in jail for what happened and what he did. And so, obviously, for what Raha Jackson did to Stuart Scott, obviously does deserve jail time, but that remains to be determined by the authorities, of course. Once the authorities determine the crime, it will really be up to Raha Jackson to decide if he's going to be the one going to jail, or if he is going to be the guy that decides that he's going to be taking, anger management courses, rehabilitation, to make sure he can to learn how he can control his emotions better. And obviously, that is just look. This is what it has come down to. If somebody makes a drastic decision, and a serious decision at that, with what Raha Jackson is, of course there's consequences. Of course the consequence for this is that he's going to be going to jail, and of course the consequence is he's going to probably spend some time in jail. But the obvious answer is he could also lessen the time that he has and learn from the situation to not make the same mistake again and control his emotions, as Sean Strickland has stated here. So we're just looking at this from an analytical standpoint. I'm just looking at this from an analytical standpoint, and obviously, we on social media, it's usually if something happens to someone, it's usually guilty before they're declared innocent. But it's always, everybody has the innocent before guilty situation. So the only way that this can happen, if he can go to jail, is the police have to determine this as he has the right, under the Fifth Amendment. Everybody has the right under the Fifth Amendment to be free until they're innocent until proven guilty. We on social media, you cannot just go ahead and say somebody automatically deserves to go to prison. But since this is already captured in public and on video, and him admitting that he's gonna violently beat someone almost to death, which is what happened, it's kind of evidence is kind of stacked against him. So it's kind of it is what it is, but the thing is, you have to wait for the investigation to wrap up with the police to see what's going to happen. But there's some other information that says a couple of other things that have happened. So there's a wrestler, RVD. Of course, we all know RVD, Rob Van Dam, Mr. Monday Night himself, Mr. ECW champion himself. He has also voiced his opinion on this situation. So RVD also has voiced his opinion on the situation with Raha Jackson and Stuart Smith. So of course there has been another wrestler. I didn't put it in the description box, but what's his name? Chris Jericho also donated money. There's an article that I read about Chris Jericho. He donated money to Stuart Jackson to help him with his recovery. I didn't include it in there, but Chris Jericho also has done this. So Stuart Jericho Stu has definitely been given a lot of love and support from people, and that's great to see. It's great to see people are contributing to his GoFundMe to help him, and he's gonna need a lot of therapy, a lot of rehabilitation to get back on his feet. And so the other thing is that Psycho Stu, there's a lot of miscommunication. Unfortunately, in this situation, there's a lot of miscommunication. I happened to see the video, the clip. It wasn't a video, it was a clip. Psycho Stu definitely hit Raha Jackson over the head. And Raha Jackson looked confused or upset. You could tell by his body, the way he reacted with his body. It's quite a sad situation. But luckily no one is dead, so no one is badly hurt. I mean, Psycho Stu is he's damaged, but he's not dead. So it's better to be alive than to be dead, of course, in this day and age. It's a great blessing to be alive. So let's go into this article. RVD issues a controversial response to Raha Jackson with Psycho Stu Smith. This article is from August 26, 2025. So that was just on Tuesday. Quinton Rampage Jackson's son, Raha Jackson, attack on Psycho Stu Smith has generated a harsh reaction across the pro wrestling landscape. The one WWE Hall of Famer's words regarding the incident have incited some controversy. The MMA legend's son viciously attacked Psycho Stu Smith at Knox Pro Wrestling Academy show this past weekend, seemingly resulted in the promotion losing its WWID affiliation. The incident left Smith in the hospital in critical condition, though stable and conscious. The attack has widely been condemned across the industry, though not by everyone. Rob Van Dam took to social media on Sunday night, offering an eye-opening post indicating that he had Raha's back. So RVD said, quote unquote, "So far I got Raha's back. Looking forward to talking about it tomorrow on my podcast." While fans were quick to push back on this take, RVD decided to dive further into it on his podcast Monday night. RVD said, "I want to start out by saying best wishes to Psycho Smith, Stu Smith. Hopefully he will regain his health and do it quickly. That's a shame. He definitely didn't deserve what happened to him. If you thought, so YBD also said, quote unquote, if you thought that me saying that was somehow hypocritical because of my text that I said I back Raha, when then you are one of the basic thinkers that can't understand how those that can be two in the same universe. The 54-year-old indicated that despite publicly saying he had Raha's back, he was not firmly backing one side over the other. IBD said, quote unquote, I'm not picking a side. If I did that, I'm not saying that it would be Raha. All I'm saying is like when Jim Ross said that Vince McMahon was looking ugly, then he said, well, that's the pot calling the kettle black. Not one has nothing to do with the other, right? So I'm not saying that this guy Stu deserved what happened to him, but saying I got Raha's back, quote unquote. IBD said, continuing, when I watched everything, and when I say that I have his back, I'm not saying I'm going to stand back and fight a crowd of millions of people that are trying to lynch him. What I'm saying is I see a pathway that he took that led to what happened. The 25-year-old Jackson is currently being investigated by the Los Angeles Police Department for the alleged assault on Smith, who does not have a professional wrestling training. Though his father, Rampage Jackson, has wrestled matches for both TNA and Bloodsport. While it is unclear at this time as to whether or not the promotion was in on what Jackson planned to do to Smith, Van Dam indicated that he believed he should not have been in that position in the first place. RBD said, quote unquote, he's not a pro wrestler, he shouldn't have been part of all this. WWE legend, most recently on TV for AEW in 2024, winning a 4-way against Isaiah Cassidy, Commander, and Lee Johnson. He also appeared in the MLW Battle Riot this past April. So, thankfully, a GoFundMe account has been set up to help with Smith's recovery, having raised more than $60,000 in 3 days. So, that's great to see, guys. Stuart Smith has got $60,000 to help him with his medical costs, and that's wonderful to hear. That's a positive thing. So RVD again says RVD says the same thing that Rampage says, which is that Raha Jackson should have been nowhere near the event because he wasn't a trained WWE wrestler. He doesn't know what they have to do in a WWE event, and I mean, he is correct. Obviously, he is correct. But the situation happened as it should have and should not have happened. It's just unfortunate that it did. That's what RVD said in this controversial situation. Continuing here on Yahoo Sports, Dylan Danis reacts to viral Raha Jackson incident. He definitely deserves what has coming to him. To hit somebody from the other side of the situation, Dylan Davis has said that Raha Jackson definitely is going to get some payback from what's happened and what he did to Stuart Smith. Obviously, I think it's been said it's known that if things happen to anyone, there's always a payback that's going to happen. So according to here, Dylan Davis, like a lot of other people, saw what Raha Jackson did at a pro wrestling show this weekend. Jackson, the son of Quinton Rampage Jackson, appeared at a Knox pro wrestling event and appeared to brutally assault pro wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu. Jackson slammed Smith hard to the canvas and began delivering a series of unanswered punches to an unconscious Smith before other wrestlers pulled him off. Dylan Danis, who competes in an MMA bout at Misfits 22 this Saturday against Warren Spencer, couldn't believe what he saw in the viral video. Dylan Danis said, quote unquote, to be honest, it's hard to watch, but in a way, he might have had something wrong, like maybe anger problems, because why would he do that? Danis told MMA Fighting. Anybody who has trained or anyone that has a brain knows when someone's working, that be like me going with you right now, and you're like, I'm gonna pick you up and we're working. We're doing a WWE match. You could slam me on my head. I'm giving you my weight. Quote unquote. And Dylan continues saying, so the guy obviously let him pick him up, and then slamming him like that is ridiculous. First off, being a guy that's trained, I know he's only 0-1. Anyone in WWE can do that to each other. People are acting, oh, that's Rampage Jr. or something like that. The guy jumped up for you to carry his weight, and he's trusting you to take care of his body, and then he throws these shots, and I can get you kind of lay one in, but the first one was like a haymaker. He's trying to like to unalive the man, and it's sad, and he doesn't understand what happened. Davis had a tough time watching the clip and letting it sink in for a couple of reasons. One, the grappling ace believes it makes MMA fighters and other combat athletes in general look bad, and to the general public who already didn't look fondly upon the mixed martial arts scene. Secondly, Raha Jackson is the son of an MMA legend and a former UFC world champion that Danis respects immensely, which makes it tougher to talk about. Dylan Danis says, quote-unquote, it's hard to understand what happened and it looks bad for us too. Danis said, anybody can do that. I can go into the ring in WWE and do that. They're supposed to have a trust, and that's a different sport. It's pro wrestling. It'd be different if it was like, hey, kid, mess with you, I really want to fight you. Yeah, then beat the crap out of the guy, but it didn't seem like that. He did the pop can, then he apologized. It's so sad. I was actually going to help him with the money, maybe training, but then he shot the other guy, and he shot on the other guy and couldn't get the other guy down. The guy was letting him work with his body. When you're training, and even when you pick someone up in sparring, you're not going to slam a guy on his head. That's basically what they're doing in pro wrestling. But I like Rampage a lot, and you certainly don't want to blame Rampage. That's the only reason why I don't want to go too hard on his son, because Rampage is a legend. He's a great guy, but if it wasn't Rampage's son, I'd be like, yeah, that guy, but that stuff's messed up to do to someone, especially on an indie show like that. As of now, Stuart Smith is conscious and recovering. So that's what Dylan Danis said, quote-unquote. The article continues, as of now, Stuart Smith is conscious and recovering from his injuries, according to multiple posts from family and friends on social media. Charges have not yet been filed per the Los Angeles Police Department. For now, Dylan Danis hopes Smith can recover from the brutal attack, and if Jackson ends up paying for his sins through the hands of the law, Danis believes punishment fits the crime. Dylan Danis said, quote-unquote, you're a martial artist at the end of the day. You know when someone's unconscious, it's messed up, but he feels bad for the guy. He did it too. Plus, it puts mixed martial arts back. He said us, meaning mixed martial arts, back a little bit. It went viral, and it makes us look like we're bad people. Maybe there's a deeper meaning. Maybe he had something go wrong with him. But to snap like that, the guy didn't even do anything. It's very sad to see. I hope the guy recovers fully, and I hope he does something to help him out. It's just messed up, and he could say a lot about it, but in respect to Rampage, because he's a legend, you don't want us to go there. This dude definitely deserves what he has coming to him. That's not cool. Alright? So there's Dylan Danis just responding to the sad situation between Raha Jackson and Stuart Smith. Obviously, we hope to see a positive outcome of this situation here with Dylan Danis. Dylan Danis definitely has made a point. Definitely there's going to be a situation where Raha Jackson is going to be getting payback for what happened. With the family decides they're going to be pressing charges on him for what he did. That, it's just we have to see what's going to happen, guys, obviously, with what's going to go down, if they're going to be pressing charges or not pressing charges once the LAPD wrap up what happened. So we'll see what happens, guys. Obviously, Quinton Rampage Jackson does not deserve any. He is the father of Raha, but Quinton Rampage Jackson did not go out of his way and assault Stuart Scott. It was his son that assaulted Stuart Scott, and he's not guilty by association here. And I know that on social media, some people have said, well, if the father raised your children right, then the kids have to know right from wrong. Obviously, if somebody does something wrong, the parents, unless the parents actually supported the kids in the wrongdoing, then they are to blame for the situation. But if they didn't do anything wrong, that they have no part in what happened. The it's you can't automatically assume that the parents are. People can't automatically assume that the parents are guilty by association, because that would be wrong to associate blame a whole entire family for the actions of one individual. Um, this is America, and in America, we don't automatically blame a whole group of people for one individual's problem. Um, that is not the American way. We have the rule of law. We have the Constitution. We have the Fifth Amendment. We have the innocent before proven guilty, and so we have to follow the process of that thing. I'm just saying, guys. And that's what I have to say about this situation, because I'm moving on to the next portion of the live stream. So we're going to move on to the second part right now, and we're talking about Canelo Alvarez and David Crawford. Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. So I think in my past live stream I've covered Canelo Alvarez and Crawford's fight. I haven't really done any updates since then. It's been some time since we've last talked about that, but the date and time and the place has been set for the fight. Of course, this fight's going to occur on Netflix. So this is on August 13th, 2025. So it says here, the highly anticipated mega boxing fight for the ununified super middleweight crown between Mexican boxing star Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford is officially a month away and will take place at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Saturday, September 13th. That's literally 2 weeks from now. Alvarez, the reigning champion of the WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF titles in the super middleweight division, boasts an impressive record of 63 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, including 39 knockouts. He recently enjoyed a victory against William Skull in May, which secured him the undisputed 168-pound champion for the second time. Since his loss to Dimitri Bivol by unanimous decision, Alvarez has remained undefeated. Terence Crawford enters the ring for the first time since August 2024 with an undefeated record of 41 wins, which includes 31 knockouts in the last fight against Israel Madrimov. Crawford claims the WBO junior middleweight title, securing victory by unanimous decision, a thrilling performance that has left fans eagerly awaiting his next fight. Here's what we need to know about the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford bout set for September 13th. Canelo Alvarez will face Terence Crawford on Saturday, September 13th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. The fight will be at 9 p.m. and streamed on Netflix. How to watch the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight. So the Crawford fight will be streamed on Netflix, of course, with coverage starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, September 13th. Fans can subscribe to Netflix for as low as $7.99 to watch the event. Of course, the crowd, it will be on Netflix. The main event is going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, super middleweight bout, 168 pounds. Callum Walsh versus the fight card will be Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas. Christian Mabili versus Lester Martinez. Muhammad Alakal versus John Ornelas. So there we have the fight card. There's going to be 3 fights before the main event at the Boxing match right there. So there we got the full fight card for your eyes to see. If you want to watch this thing, watch it on Netflix, of course. So, that's going to be where it's going to be happening. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the odds for this fight. Let's go into the odds. And this article, by the way, is on USA Today. So going into the odds for the fight. Here are the odds for the fight. This updated article. This article was written on so August 21st, 2025. So it says here, Canelo Alvarez will defend his undisputed super middleweight titles against Terence Crawford on September 13th in Las Vegas. Canelo is a minus 190 favorite versus Crawford 155 underdog on Sportsbook, largely because Crawford must jump 2 weight classes to meet him at 168 pounds. The fight will be broadcasted on Netflix, of course. So there we have the odds. Canelo is 190, minus 190. Crawford is plus 155. Using our odds calculator, Alvarez's favorite status means $100 of bet on him pays out to 152.63. The same bet on Crawford pays out to $255. Now, I'm not advocating for betting at all. I'm not a bettor. I'm not a gambler. I don't bet money. And according to this article here, says how to bet Crawford. While Crawford might outbox Canelo in stretches, he doesn't have the durability or power to secure a clear victory, despite what some boxing purists believe. Canelo's explosiveness, raw strength and power edge could lead to a knockout. He also has a sturdy track record against southpaws lately, besting John Ryder by decision in 2023 and Billy Joel Sanders by TKO in 2021. With an all-time great chin and elite defensive instincts, Crawford has consistently slipped or rolled through big shots since this GGG trilogy, leaving Crawford with little to no chance of landing a fight-ending blow. And this fight changes big time if Crawford doesn't have the nuclear option. Canelo's defense is pivotal, and so is his adaptability. Alvarez can win in so many different ways, and he should be extra confident when he's less concerned about a fight-ending blow. Anybody who's watched Canelo Alvarez knows how his mastery in the pocket, using vicious body work to either end the fight or lower his opponent's guard for headshots. So it says how to bet Crawford. There's a strong case that Crawford is the best skilled fighter in boxing today. His destruction of Spence was a masterclass in precision and timing, with Crawford landing 50% of his punches and forcing a 9th round stoppage. That win cemented him as a 2-weight undisputed champion and the pound-for-pound king. Now the challenge is different. Crawford is moving up to super middleweight, where size and strength favor Alvarez. Few fighters can succeed when jumping 2 weight divisions, and at 39 years old, Crawford's durability will be tested against Alvarez's power. Trainer reasons progress. They make weight classes for a reason. Crawford has been sparring bigger opponents to prepare, even with those near 200 pounds, but there are doubts he can absorb Alvarez's pressure. Many believe Alvarez could force a stoppage by the late middle rounds. I'm inclined to agree the threat is there. If you believe in Crawford, though, betting him as the underdog or by decision offers solid value. So it says here, quote, I bet on Alvarez by KO. His power, experience at super middleweight, and the ability to adapt in the ring make him a likely winner, especially against a slimmer opponent like Crawford. So there you have it, guys. You got this article here. The individuals that are favoring Crawford over Canelo Alvarez, of course, since Canelo is coming up from the I believe he's at middleweight, he's at lightweight, and he's going into middleweight. So that's kind of interesting learning about that. So going into the next thing, now we're going to be talking about Roach and Tank Davis. That's the third thing we're talking about here. I'm kind of disappointed. I'm disappointed in this fight for one reason, right? But we'll get into that after we kind of cover these articles, these last few articles here is about Roach and Davis. The Lamont Roach rematch being explored after Tank Davis's arrest. Unfortunately, Tank Davis got arrested. All right, and so this puts his rematch with Lamont Roach on hold. Unfortunately, guys, very unfortunate, very sad to see. I've been talking about this thing for months, and I had to stop. I actually took some time off. My last video was like in July, covering Lamont Roach and Tank Davis, and so let's just kind of get into this article. So it's not a long article. It's on MSN.com. So it says Roach rematch being explored after Tank Davis's arrest. The Devonta Davis versus Lamont Roach rematch is in limbo after Tank Davis got arrested on July 11th. Tank Davis was arrested on domestic violence charges against his ex-girlfriend. The reported incident took place on June 15th, Father's Day, when Davis went to pick up his kids from his former partner's home in Coral Gables, Florida. However, the situation ensued where Davis allegedly hit his former partner on the back of the head and slapped her face, leaving her with a cut inside the lip. Tank Davis was taken into custody but has since been released. Lamont Roach, meanwhile, had claimed the following day that the match would still go ahead as planned on August 16th. However, that doesn't appear to be the case anymore. Further reports, PBC started looking for a new start date even before Tank Davis got arrested. Davis reportedly stopped training for 3 weeks prior to his arrest after the incident on June 15th. Hence, it looks unlikely that the rematch could take place on August 16th. Instead, PBC is trying to reschedule it for either August 23rd or August 30th, and the feasibility of the new dates are currently being explored. So, the new dates for the fight will either be, what's today? Tomorrow, on Saturday, or August 23rd just passed us. It might be, it would have happened this week, or it would have happened tomorrow. It would happen on Saturday, August 30th. And the feasibility of the new dates are currently being explored. The first fight between the pair went down in March, ended in a controversial majority draw. Davis took a deliberate knee in the 9th round, which wasn't counted as a knockdown, leaving the boxing world baffled. Roach certainly gave Tank Davis the toughest fight of his career and took away his perfect record. Davis is now 30-0-1 with 28 wins, knockout wins, while Roach is 25 wins, 1 losses, 1 knockout, and 2 draws with 10 knockout wins. Lamont Roach showed he could take Devonta Davis' best shots and launch his own counters. Believe Tank stumbled. Hence, the rematch is a fight fans are looking forward to. Davis meanwhile, can't seem to keep himself out of trouble outside the ring. This isn't his first run-in with the law, and the recent allegations are quite serious. So, a lot remains to be seen with what's going to happen with Tank Davis. It's quite unfortunate that the fight could be rescheduled or to a later date. You don't know when, but it will be rescheduled at a later time. And obviously, I want to see this fight happen. This rematch has to happen. But because of the drama that's happening outside of boxing, Tank Davis obviously has to deal with the situation that's happening outside of boxing. And obviously, we'll have to see what remains to be seen. And can he get the situation that's happening with him outside of boxing to be taken care of? Because, he's dealing with personal issues. And he's got to take care of those personal issues before he can come back to working and focus on what he's doing to settle this matter. A lot that remains to be seen, obviously. So here's something. Now we're getting to the real situation here. Lamont Roach's dad. So Lamont Roach's dad has provided his feedback on what has happened with the rematch being he's given his feedback about what's going on with Lamont with Gervonta St. Davis. I'm trying to find the article. Oh yes, here it is. I'm sorry, guys. Computer technology always giving issues for some reason. But this article here is written on August 5th, 2025. Lamont Roach's dad provides latest Gervonta Davis rematch update amid uncertainty. Here's what Lamont Roach's father has said. Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach were expected to have their rematch on August 16th. Their first fight back in March ended in a majority controversial contest where Gervonta Tank Davis took a deliberate knee but wasn't penalized with a knockdown. The fight marked the toughest fight of Davis' career. It was the first time he hadn't won inside the ring. Fans had been keen to show how the rematch plays out. However, Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested on July 11th and is facing domestic violence charges. Tank Davis has since disappeared from the public eye, including deactivating his social media. The proposed rematch will no longer take place on August 16th, and Roach's father has not provided the latest update on when the fight could take place. Lamont Roach speaks on Gervonta Davis rematch. Lamont Roach Sr. has claimed that his son is staying ready as always and spending time in the gym. He told Mill City Boxing, we still in the gym staying ready. We're always ready in the gym, but we were in camp, but we are in the gym now, not particularly in camp. Lamont Roach Sr. added that they confirmed in late July that the fight won't take place in August. When asked whether there is any updates or a proposed later date, Lamont Roach said, quote, Lamont Roach Sr. said, quote, we haven't heard anything about a later date. We were told it could get pushed back a week or two, but that went away too. It pretty much wasn't happening, quote unquote. Roach's star peaked with his performance against Davis, and the fans are keen to see the rematch, but it looks uncertain. At this point, it won't be surprising to see the Reaper explore other options to stay active. Shakur Stevenson has shown interest in fighting Roach. We've spoken about Shakur Stevenson before. Speaking of what's next, Lamont Roach Sr. said, you gotta see what's out there and see what's the best path. It ain't always the next best fight. It's what after that comes, not sometimes after as well. Before Davis versus Roach in March, many touted it as a cakewalk for Tank. While Davis held Roach in high regards, the majority believed that Tank Davis was trying to sell the fight. They was proven wrong since the opening bell rang. Roach stood toe-to-toe and even landed some shots of his own, even wobbling Davis on occasion. The fight became an instant classic and one of the biggest events of the year. PBC has now uploaded the full fight to the YouTube channel, and the video has gotten already close to 190,000 views. So there we have it. If you guys want to go back and rewatch the fight between Lamont Roach and Gervonta Davis, the first fight with them, you can watch it on YouTube for free. Don't be afraid to do that, of course. So, gotta say this: I'm disappointed that the fight between these two boxers is to be determined at the moment because of what's going on with Gervonta Tank Davis. He's going through some personal problems, personal issues. He's got to deal with domestic violence charges against him, and obviously also other problems with stuff going on with his family. So, it's unfortunate that that's happened to him. So continuing here, we're getting to the best part. This is the best part, guys. This is the main event for our live stream today. We are talking about. Here we are. Here's the big main event, everyone. Here it is, finally. Jake Paul to fight Gervonta Tank Davis in November, exhibition on Netflix. And this article was written on August 23rd, 2025. Let's read this. Let's see what this is all about. Jake Paul to fight Toronto Tank Davis. Let's see what this is all about, guys, here. Jake Paul's next fight has been set. The YouTuber turned boxer will face Toronto Tank Davis in an exhibition match at State Farm Arena in Atlanta on November 14th. Netflix will be hosting the major event later this year, as did Paul's controversial fight with Mike Tyson. Paul, 12-1 in his boxing career with 7 knockouts, has already started trash talk on X. Paul said, quote unquote, "Gervonta has been disrespecting my name for far too long. His nickname might be Tank, but I'm a FPV drone and I'm about to disable this tiny man." Paul said, yes, quote unquote, yes, he's one of the top pound for pound boxers in the world, but my motto is anyone, anytime, any place against all odds. And I like my odds. First of all, I'm going to kill David, then I'm going to slaughter Goliath. But words from Jake Paul. Powerful, very boastful words. Goliath, Jake Paul also said, quote unquote, Goliath refers to Anthony Joshua, the British pro boxer who is a 2-time heavyweight champion. He and Paul were in talks, but those discussions were reportedly collapsed due to network issues. While Davis has never lost a fight, his last bout was mired in controversy. He fought to a draw in Lamont Roach in March at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, which included Davis' kneel down that wasn't called a knockdown in the 9th round. Davis was expected to face Roach again on August 16th, however he was arrested for misdemeanor battery domestic violence. His ex-girlfriend accused him of striking her on the back of the head and slapping her during a June 15th altercation. The charge was dropped last week after his ex-girlfriend refused to prosecute. Jake Paul's last fight was against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. where he won by unanimous decision in California. The victory gave him a World Boxing Association ranking this past month, and he debuted as number 14th contender in the cruiserweight division. Speaking of weight classes, that will be a major storyline between these two fighters before their bout in November. Paul is at least 15 pounds heavier than Davis, who is 5'5" compared to Paul's 6'1" frame. Netflix will also be hosting a September 13th bout between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, 2 of the best pound-for-pound boxers to ever step foot in a ring. So here we have it, guys. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis, and he's also a world-ranking number 14 boxer, according to a professional boxer. All of a sudden, isn't that wonderful? I just gotta say, I'm not happy about this. You know, Jake Paul, he just doesn't have a very good track record. He's fought ex-pro boxers. He's fought pro, old retired. He fought an old aging Mike Tyson. He's fought basketball players. He's fought MMA fighters. You know, he doesn't have the credibility that he should. He's talking a lot of crap, and he's believing he's trying to back it up as he is. So here's my next point, guys. We're talking about Jake Paul, who's about 200 pounds at a cruiserweight level, who is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis, who is 150 pounds lighter, so he's about 150 pounds. So I included this before we get to our last article of the day. According to the Britannica.com, I decided to look up the weight divisions in boxing. According to the Britannica Encyclopedia, the weight division in boxing is divided into different brackets, right? So according to this Britannica.com, boxing and weight divisions. During the 19th and again the beginning of the 20th century, the popularity of boxing brought in about the formation of weight divisions other than the heavyweight class to eliminate the handicap of smaller contestants having to concede excessive weight to their opponents. Some of these weight divisions originated in the United States, others in Great Britain. So you don't need to have, in other words, there's no need for smaller boxers to gain weight to fight the bigger boxers. There's obviously No need whatsoever at all. You don't need to have a smaller boxer, a less heavier boxer fighting a heavier boxer. You can't have a boxer that's at featherweight fighting a boxer that's at heavyweight division. It just doesn't add up. Obviously, it's just not gonna hit the same. The heavyweight is gonna hit harder than somebody that's at the featherweight division. Continuing here, according to the Britannica.com, there were traditionally 8 weight divisions in men's boxing. More divisions were added, and professional governing bodies now recognize a total of 17 weight classes, which had their current names established by major boxing association organizations in 2015. The upper limits of these classes are delimited as minimum weight, that's 105, 48 kilograms, light flyweight, 108 pounds, that's 49 kilograms, flyweight, 112 pounds, 51 kilograms, super flyweight, 115 pounds, 52 kilograms, bantamweight, 118, 53.5 kilograms, super bantamweight, 122, that's 155 kilograms. Yes, featherweight, 150, 126, that's 57 kilograms. And then you have lightweight, 135, it's 61 kilograms. Super lightweight is 140, 65.3 kilograms. I'm kind of skipping ahead here. Let's go down to, let's see what the 200 pounds. 200 pounds is cruiserweight division, 91 kilograms. Middleweight is considered 160 pounds, that's 72.5 kilograms. Heavyweight is unlimited. There's no weight division there's no weight limit in heavyweight. Anyone can fight in the heavyweight division, provided you have a strong punch. In all national and world and national title fights, weight limits must be strictly observed. Although fighters are often allowed to, by contrast, to weigh in the day before a fight, if a boxer is over the limit, he is normally given a short time in which to make a stipulated weight. If he still fails, the bout usually proceeds. But if the overweight fighter wins the bout, the title for which he was fighting for is declared vacant. So even if the fighter is a little overweight, he can still lose the title if he's not at the appropriate weight limit. In Olympic level style amateur boxing, the weight divisions for men are based upon the 2020 Tokyo Games. So okay, it's about the same, but the Olympic level they only have 7 classes. So you have flyweight 115, featherweight 126, lightweight 139, welterweight 152, middleweight 165, light heavyweight 179, heavyweight 201, super heavyweight, any weight that's over 201 pounds. So there is no universal agreement on weight divisions within women's professional boxing, but amateur weight women's divisions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 9 divisions. So it says women's Olympic boxing is restricted to 5 weight classes based on the 2020 Tokyo Games. So there you have it, guys. I want to read this last part here about the referee. The referee is stationed inside the ring with the boxers and regulates the bout. In some jurisdictions, the referee scores the contest along with the 2 judges outside the ring. In most jurisdictions, however, the referee does not participate in the judging, and 3 ringside officials score the bout. The officials award points to each boxer for the round, and the boxer must win on 2 of the 3 scorecards to earn decision victory. In Olympic bouts, 5 judges score electronically by pushing a button whenever a punch is believed to have landed on a boxer. No punch is registered as a hit unless 3 judges press their buttons within a second of each other. Padded gloves ranging from 8 to 10 ounces in weight are worn by the boxers. So, I mean, you can read this article. It goes into more detail. I'm not going to really cover everything here, but on Britannica, right here, we You can definitely, anyone can read more into the sport of boxing and what the rules are all about. It's right here on the table of contents. It's actually more about the introduction and what's going on. I just wanted to just show you guys the information here about what the weight division is here. So in other words, here we have somebody who is at a considered that to be at the cruiserweight level. Okay, who's 200 pounds, who's fighting somebody who's about 50 pounds lighter than him, who is at the super welterweight, middleweight, let's say that level. And that's kind of sad. I don't want to see this happen. Jake Paul obviously has more to say. So Jake Paul is making his point. I'm just kind of trying to be fair. Trying to be fair. I don't like Jake Paul as a fighter. I don't consider him to be a real boxer because he's not a real boxer. Jake Paul makes a point here though. August 25th, 2025. Jake Paul claims Tank Davis is taking a big risk to fight him than Mayweather did versus McGregor. Jake Paul says here, Savanta said Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is set to take place on November 14th. The duo will reportedly clash in an exhibition bout that will be broadcast worldwide on Netflix. Due to weight difference, a professional fight between the pair doesn't look feasible. Paul fought Julio Cesar Chavez in cruiserweight in his last fight, while Tank Davis has called 135 pounds his home and is a WBA lightweight champion. So, continuing here, this is on Sports Illustrated. So it says here, Gervonta Tank Davis is looked to have a rematch against Lamont Roach, but that fight was on after Gervonta Tank's arrest. Lamont Roach has now stepped aside from the rematch so Tank Davis can take on the problem child, and the YouTuber turned pro boxer has now claimed that Davis is taking a bigger risk by fighting him than Floyd Mayweather did against Conor McGregor in 2017. Jake Paul claims that the critics are only going to add to the viewership of his fight against Tank Davis. Jake Paul told Boxing Scene, quote unquote, "You're all going to watch it and you're going to know what I say to people is if you don't like something, don't talk about it, because you're just making it bigger. But at the end of the day, people are always going to have something to say about every single one of my fights." Quote unquote. This Jake Paul said, quote unquote, his is a bigger risk for Gervonta Davis than it was for Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor in that matchup in 2017. He added, Conor McGregor, Jake Paul said, quote unquote, Conor McGregor isn't a boxer. Conor McGregor didn't have the weight advantage. So, Gervonta Davis is taking a bigger risk than Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, and it's credit to him because of that weight difference. And that's what makes this a good, even fight, is his skill and experience being a top 10 pound for pound boxer, and then my weight and my height advantage. Jake Paul has been looking to fight Gervonta Tank Davis, and even planned on calling him out when he had won his fight against Lamont Roach back in March. Jake Paul claimed that Gervonta Tank Davis is one of the biggest superstars in boxing, and is actually a great fighter, sparking his interest to fight the Baltimore native. The purists remain skeptical of Jake Paul's choice of opponents and claim that he has cherry-picked his fights. Jake Paul is only enjoying the naysayers as he continues to do what he wants. Jake Paul said, "I love it, especially these types of fights. It just brings me alive, and just the entertainment value of it, and of trolling, and the training and locking in. And just getting to entertain America is something I think I was born to do." So here's what I think. Jake Paul made the comment here. Jake Paul says, Conor McGregor, quote unquote, Conor McGregor isn't a boxer. Conor McGregor didn't have a weight advantage. So Gervonta Davis. So just those 2 points, right? Conor McGregor isn't a boxer, and Conor McGregor doesn't have a weight advantage. Jake Paul, you are not a boxer and you have a weight advantage against Devonta Tank Davis. You are considered a cruiserweight fighting a lightweight. You are two different weight classes. Okay, you are you have cherry picked, like your critics have said, and I agree with your critics. Every single person you fought an NBA player, you fought retired NBA players, you fought ex-pro UFC fighters, you fought Ben Askren last time I covered you. You fought Mike Tyson, who is retired as a boxer. Who else did you fight? There's a couple of other people who you fought. Okay, the only person who you really fought is Julio Cesar Chavez, who, by the way, is a real boxer, and you beat him. Okay, so you got your world ranking. Now you're fighting a guy who is a champion in his division. You're fighting him in an exhibition match. They're making a fool of the sport, man. They're making a fool of the sport of boxing. You know, it's just unfortunate. No, boxing, let's just face it. Boxing nowadays, it's just like WWE. It's all about the money. It's not about the sport anymore. It's gone of the days of Muhammad Ali. Boxing is never returning to its former greatness when it had a lot of great boxers, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Smokey, Joe Louis, all these guys, all the former great boxers. Boxing is now a joke of its former self. That's what it is. Let's face it. And the fact that, you have people that want to be boxers, and boxers are supposed to make money. They put their bodies on the line to be successful. But at the same time, you have people who are coming in, like Jake Paul, they create celebrity boxing, so celebrities fight one another to get money. But in reality, the only people who are losing this are me and you, who are the audience that are losing money to actually pay stuff to go and see these matches. Now, I'm not a fan of this situation. I'm not a fan. I'm just saying this to you guys. But the fact that you have a guy that goes on YouTube that becomes a pro fighter. Now he's a pro fighter. Now he can challenge some guy to become the next champion at the cruiserweight level. I don't even know who the next champion is. But the fact that you have somebody that's fighting a world champion, a three-time a world champion, and I think Tank Davis should be, after clearing up his personal business with what's going on with him, he should be fighting Tank Davis. He should not be fighting Conor. He should not be fighting Jake Paul at all, guys. I believe this. Jake Paul should not be fighting Tank Davis at all. Tank Davis should be addressing this because, first of all, he's cheapening his accomplishments by fighting Jake Paul. And being that Tank Davis has fought many matches, he has a bigger record than Jake Paul. He has more experience than Jake Paul. I mean, look at what happened to Logan Paul the last time. Logan Paul fought Mayweather, was it? I believe it was Logan Paul or Jake Paul. One of them fought Mayweather, and Mayweather knocked Jake Paul out. Was it Logan Paul out? I think it was Jake Paul. Mayweather knocked him out, and even though he knocked him out, there's a part in one of the matches where the Mayweather fought him, and he knocked him out, but he still had to hold him up to help him get back, to regain consciousness. And so in these exhibition matches, man, what's the point of having exhibition matches if you can't knock someone out and then if there's a winner and there's a loser? What's the point of that, man? What is the point? There's no respect to the game of boxing. There's no respect to the game of the respectability of a fight. If you're just gonna fight and they're both gonna box just for the fun of it, then they're just gonna do it just to make some money off of people's hard-earned money. There's no respect for the audience who are paying you to actually fight each other. But the fact that Jake Paul, as we agreed, that it's a good thing that this is not a championship matchup. Because if this was a championship matchup, it would be completely crazy to see Jake Paul just all of a sudden gets a title shot. But we know that he cannot get a title shot because he would have to drop down to Tank Davis's level in order to fight him at his weight class. But if Jake Paul, obviously, maybe Jake Paul is going to be just going on and fighting in the heavyweight, cruiserweight level. He's going to be fighting at that level in the future. We're going to see him do it. Obviously, I cannot seem to find my way around to not talk about him in any way, shape, or form. But he just likes to keep himself in the spotlight. Obviously, the guy is an attention seeker. He loves attention. He loves the attention that he's getting because it brings him more notoriety. And I gotta say, I talk about him. I try not to talk about him. I avoid trying to talk about him. But the thing is, he tries to interject himself. He has to interject himself into things that don't concern him whatsoever. He really should have no bearing on what's going on with Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, and trying to go in and fight Tank Davis or Lamont Roach in a situation, because that can be done in at a private venue. It doesn't have to happen for the whole world to see. And that's the other thing. This is going to be broadcasted to Netflix. You know what, Netflix should be ashamed that they're having an exhibition match, because Netflix instead of Netflix having Jake Paul fight Tank Davis could be fighting Lamont Roach on Netflix, and we could all see that situation occur. That would be really great to see that happen. That would be a big boost in ratings for Netflix. But for Jake Paul to fight Tank Davis, that really pisses me off, man. I'm just upset about that. That's unfortunate. That is very, very unfortunate. But we live in a world where nowadays anything can be used to, people can do anything and use anything to gain notoriety and gain fame and money. Anything can be used. That's just the world we live in nowadays. It's a big wild west world out there. I don't know what else can I say. You guys, if you have any thoughts or comments about this, don't be afraid to leave your thoughts and comments on the situation with Jake Paul fighting Tank Davis, which I think is a big waste of time. It's honestly a big waste of time. Honestly, Mike Tyson made the biggest mistake of his career deciding to fight Jake Paul. Honestly, biggest mistake. Never should have happened. Could have fought someone else. Mike Tyson should have stayed where he was, but now he is where he is right now. That's all I can say about that. And yeah, that's all I can say. You guys leave your comments, thoughts, subscribe to the channel. Let's just leave it where it is. I'm just gonna leave it at that, guys. I don't have anything else to say about this situation. I wish you guys a good day. It's a beautiful day outside. Enjoy the nice weather. Weekend's coming up. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. And don't forget to give a thumbs up. Give those thumbs up, everyone. Don't be afraid to do that. Share your thumbs up. So I'll see you guys in the next live stream. And have a good day.